Salam alaikum, my friends. So, this would be the first part of a three-part series that I intend to do on what I believe to be a great pandemic. Now, when I say great pandemic, I am not referring to COVID-19, coronavirus, AIDS, or malaria. None of that. I'm referring to a social pandemic, one that is taking the lives of many young men at great proportion. In fact, you need to know this. Research shows that every year, over 720,000 people commit suicide. Now, these are people who gave up on life. These are people who decided they can't handle it anymore. They don't want to have anything to do with life. They have given up. Further research shows that every year, about 300 million people suffer depression. And this year alone, 2025, over 500 people actually die due to drug abuse and alcohol-related situations. Now, this is a very dark picture. This research paints a very dark picture about our society. It shows that we usually don't look like our problems. The faces we show out there are way different from our reality. You don't know what a person is going through until you hear the news that he has done this or he has caused harm to himself. Now, we live in a society where we would rather live alone than to associate ourselves with people. In fact, we are scared of people. We are terrified with people. That's why we are doing everything we can to just live alone. We want people to just leave us alone. We want to live a lonely life. Things like love, compassion, brotherhood, friendship, commitment terrifies us than the nuclear bomb today. We are terrified of socialization. We are terrified of brotherhood, friendship, and love and commitment. All of these things that are so essential to a good life, such as the life of a human being, are the things that we really don't want to have anything to do with. Due to this, we are living a rather dark life, a rather depressed life. Now the question is, what might be the cause of all this? What would cause a person to take his own life, to commit suicide and end it all? What would cause a person to start taking drugs that will ultimately destroy his life? What would cause a person to say, even though I am a social animal, I don't want to have any socialization in my life. I'd rather live alone and a lonely and depressed life. I've thought about this, and I think there is one thing that plays an underlying role underneath all this. And that, my friend, is what I believe to be a broken spirit. Because you see, when a person's spirit is broken, ultimately his life is shattered. When a person has a broken spirit, he lacks confidence. He lacks any positive outlook and perspective about life. He doesn't see any roadmap as to how he would get happy life. He doesn't want love in his life. After all, he doesn't believe there is such thing as love in life. When a person's spirit is broken, essentially, he is sinking down in the dark side of life, which would take him all the way down to the abyss of failure. And ultimately, his lot would be depression, loneliness, bitterness, and sometimes even suicide. Now, why shouldn't we talk about this very, very important thing? Why shouldn't we talk about this broken spirit? Now, as I indicated, I want to speak about this in three parts. The first part, I want to focus on the causes. What causes broken spirit? The second part, I want to talk about the effect of broken spirit. And the last part, I want to talk about recovery, how to recover from a broken spirit. Now, until then, this part, I want to focus on the causes. Now, the question I want to ask here is, what is it that made you lose hope in life? What shatters your belief in human goodness and relationship and love? What is it that hurt you so badly that made you give up on life? What is it that broke your spirit, that you don't want to have anything to do with humans anymore? Now, there are so many things that could happen to us that would break our spirit. So many. But I want to focus on 5 because I believe these 5 are the ones we encounter on daily basis. At least one or two of them, if we are not careful, and if we are not lucky, we would encounter one of them in our lives. In fact, most of us have encountered one or two of these 5 causes that break our spirit in life. And I want us to focus on them. 1, toxic relationship. Now, here is the thing. Relationship has got this huge emotional investment in them. When you are in any given relationship, it means you have invested a lot of your emotion in that relationship. Now, these emotions are so high to the extent that if that relationship succeeds, you have a very joyful and happy and prosperous life. You would build confidence. You would build a very colorful picture about life in your mind. You would love people and you would appreciate life, the good aspect of it. That is because that relationship has nurtured your emotions and has actually used your emotions wisely, and it has made your life very beautiful. That's why if a person is in a good relationship and that relationship is making him happy every day, he shows up even on a bad day very happy. Because where you have the most emotion invested, that place has the power to either make you or break you. Now, you see, because we invest a lot of emotion in our relationships, it makes it very critical that we find a good relationship. Because if we don't have a good relationship and we have a toxic relationship, and relationships are places that we invest loads and loads of emotions, anything that happens in that relationship has the power to affect the rest of our lives. Now, something might happen to you with your partner at home, and it affects every single aspect of your day. Why? Because the greatest part of your emotions are invested in your relationship. It's not in your job most of the time. It's not in your day-to-day. It's in your relationship. So that is why toxic relationship has this great power to destroy a person. If you have invested the great part of your emotion in a relationship, and instead of building that relationship actually kills it, then you are killing your spirit. This is the reason why most people, when they come out of a toxic relationship, they never remain the same again, because they have made a huge investment in that, and that investment didn't go well for them. Imagine you have invested a great part of your wealth in some kind of a business, and then you gain loss and it never grew, and you lost all that money. How would that affect you? It means you would lose a lot, and to recover what you lost, it would take time. The same with relationships, the same with toxic relationship. Because when you get into relationship, what we are doing is to invest our emotion, the greatest part of it, in that relationship. And when we do that, it's a great investment. If it does not yield good result, and if it is toxic, and if it is affecting that, what happens is we lose a great deal. And when we come out of those toxic relationship, we find it very hard to regain what we lost in that relationship. And that is what toxic relationship does. And it kills your spirit, because your spirit goes with your emotion. Your confidence goes with your emotion. Emotion is actually that which fuels our actions. Most actions are fueled by emotions. And if you have a relationship and you have invested all this emotion in, and you have loved the wrong person, a person who does not appreciate your heart, a person who does not appreciate your love, and you are doing everything you can, and anytime you do something right, he just does not appreciate it. He just does not see it. You readily do anything for him, but all he does is to just put you down. I mean, he always puts you down. He just doesn't want you to have any confidence in your life. Now, he may not say it, but what he does to you is to make you feel insecure. Now, you know you are in a toxic relationship when the person makes you feel rather insecure, like all the time. He makes you feel small all the time. I mean, he makes you feel like you are incapable of pleasing people. You are incapable of expressing love. Now, that is what toxicity in relationship does. You bring all this emotional effort, but as soon as you bring them down, there is a punch on it. People just punch on it. People just stamped on it, and then it just comes back hitting hard in your heart. And the next time you lack the confidence to do it. And when that happens on gradual basis, gradually, you lose it, and you lose your self-confidence, and you lose your spirit. And if by any chance you get the chance to get out of the relationship, you might have lost that ability and capacity to invest any kind of emotion into any sort of relationship. That's why most people would get out of a toxic relationship and they would not have the heart to get into any other relationship anymore, because they are scared, because they don't even have it. The first relationship has killed that. Toxic relationship kills people's spirit. It leaves them heartbroken and a broken life. It leaves them depressed and bitter. 2, betrayal. Now, there is this beautiful thing that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, says. Now, he says that when we put things, or when we entrust people who are not worthy of things that we entrust unto them, we should just have to wait for the time they would betray us. Betrayal comes as a result when a person lacks any virtue and he lacks any dignity and respect, so that when we hand him over things that we hold dear, he betrays it. He does not do what he needs to do with that. Now imagine you have given someone something that is very dear to you. It could be your heart. It could be your love. Now you need to understand there is a difference between loving a person and handing over your heart to a person. Okay, the heart might fall in love, but if you act on it, it means you giving that person your love. Now there is a difference between these two, because you see, love sometimes just happens. Sometimes we don't intend to love, it just happens. That's why sometimes we fall in love with fools. That's why we sometimes fall in love with people whom we don't ought to fall in love with. And you see, there is a difference between falling in love and acting on the love. If you fall in love with the right person, then by all means, you can act upon it. You can give him your love. So you see how you can play around. But if you fall in love with a fool, or if you fall in love with an unworthy person, you don't necessarily need to take action. Most people have this weird idea that if I love the person, why don't I just give him out my heart? Let me act on it. It's not all love that you need to act upon. I mean, we walk about every day and our hearts will just fall in love with anyone. It's upon you to know whether to act on that love or not to act on that love. Now, you see, the things that we feel on a daily basis, if we act upon all of them, imagine where our life would be. Nowhere. Because we would reduce ourselves to just our animalistic instinct, because we just follow our heart. And if we follow our hearts all the time, it will really take us to a very dark place. That's when you hand over yourself to a person who is not worthy of you. When we were kids, we were unwise about all these things. And because we felt it, we just gave it. No. When you feel it, you don't need to give it. You need to analyze and assess the person you are giving it out to. And if he does not deserve it, don't give it to him. Work yourself out of it. And he doesn't need to know. Because what happens is, if you give it to a person who is not worthy of it, he would betray it. And when he betrays it, he will leave your heart broken, and he will leave your spirit broken. And when you have a broken spirit by a person who is a betrayer, a person who is not worthy of what you gave unto him, then you might have been broken by a very wrong person. Betrayal breaks spirit. And the best way, I believe, is to really do your best to assess the person, not to give him things that he doesn't deserve to hold. But sometimes it just happens. And if it happens, how do you deal with it? I'll speak about that in the third part of this video. The third one is shaming people's mistakes and over-punishing the guilty people. Now look, we have created a society, right? A society that capitalizes on shaming people. It actually pays people well, I mean in real money, to shame people. With the advent and existence of social media and all of this content creation, people have gone on wild on the secrets of people and on shaming people. There is this fascinating prayer. I mean, it's so fascinating, a prayer that made me understand how grave it is to shame a person. It is so grave that even the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam is afraid of it. Ibrahim alayhi salam was so afraid of being put to shame that he prayed to Allah. He said in the Quran, look, وَلَا تُخْزِنِي يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ. Oh Allah, do not disgrace me. Do not put me to shame on the day people will be resurrected. Now, it only tells you that shaming people is a grave matter. Shaming people is so not virtuous of any person. But unfortunately, we are in a situation where many people use it as a capital to earn money, as a capital to rise above the social status. They want to put you down so they may appear bigger people. That's why people will just use your secrets and your mistakes and will just advertise it on the social media just to make you feel small so that they may feel big. I heard a very wise person say that there are two ways people could be big in society, or there are two ways people could build a bigger house in any given society. One, you either destroy the tallest building so that your small building would appear to be big, or you could build your small building to go over the tallest building. Now, people rather prefer to demolish the tallest building so their small building would be up. What this means is the people who try to put people down and shame people in any given society, they are small people. And they have not the capacity to build themselves up. They would rather look at the tall person, destroy him, so that they would maintain the smallish personality, and then their smallish personality will be seen as some kind of big people. You are not a big person for putting the bigger person down by shaming him. You are just a small, pathetic person who can't build himself up, but would rather destroy someone in order to appear big in the eyes of people. Ibrahim alayhi salam says, وَلَا تُخْزِنِي يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ. You know what? On the day of Qiyamah, Allah would cover the secret of people simply because they have covered the secret of certain people. Shaming people destroy their spirit. There are people who cannot come out. Their morale, their spirit has been shattered. Why? Because people have shamed them. People have found their secrets and they have advertised it on the social media. They have advertise it on the market in the face of the world. And these people are broken forever because sometimes we make some of the grave mistakes of our lives. And if only people could give us a chance, if only people could cover it and advise us in secret, we would make a turnaround and become the best people, because sometimes we are not the same people we were when we were kids. Now, if you expose your kid to ridicule when he was a kid and done some stupid things, you are actually ridding him of the opportunity to become a better person. The same with every person. If you find his mistake, instead of actually trying to correct him or direct him or show him love and compassion, you actually shame him in front of the world. What you have actually done is to kill the spirit of that person. Some people kill themselves due to that. Some people hang themselves. Some people commit suicide. Some people go out of the community. Some people start taking drugs just to get over this shaming that people actually do on the social media. We are so hungry and thirst for position and status and followers that we don't care who we stamp upon, that we don't care who we shame in this modern world. I say this, the social media has two very scary features. One, it does not forget, and two, it does not forgive. But we are the people on the social media. We don't care and we don't forgive. We are just hungry and thirst. And that's why we rather destroy people in order to become bigger people. Don't destroy someone's spirit by shaming him. 4, social judgment. Now, social judgment, you need to understand that society could condemn a person and damn him because he has made a simple mistake. The society, in most cases, is quick to desert a person, is quick to condemn a person, is quick to rather discard a person and call him an outcast. We are quick to run away from people when they make a mistake as a society. Most of the times, people in society, when they make a mistake or they have a change of ideology, we rather have a very hard time bringing them close to show them the essence of what they are actually casting away. We rather would mount a speaker, a microphone, or a camera, and we would damn them and we discard them. We don't want to teach people. We don't want to guide people. But what we do is to cast people away, is to call them a damned. That's what we do in the societies. And when people don't feel that sense of belonging, they rather go out and they become bitter and they have a broken spirit. The society could break the spirit of an individual who is part of them and has been a part of them since the day he was born. Society has a responsibility to nurture the spirit of the people and make people within them so confident in themselves and to know that this is the society that truly loves me. In the absence of that, we have people who rather desert their societies because their societies have disappointed them. Their societies do not give them a chance to explain themselves. Their society do not show them the compassion that they deserve from them, so that when they find themselves out of that, they see their society as the enemy, because the society don't treat them as a member. Their society treat them as an enemy. At the least mistake, your society might treat you as the real enemy, when in fact you are just part of them but just made a mistake or something. But your society would treat you like an enemy. And guess what happened to these people? They would desert the society, and then they would find the society in turn as their greatest enemy. And then there would be a fight, and they would not see any reason whatsoever to be a member of that society or to even come to the aid of that society when the time comes to that. So the society would rather have to show love to people in order not to dampen their spirit. 5. Child abuse. I don't think many people do understand and appreciate how bad child abuse is. I mean, if you abuse a child, the damage could follow him for the rest of his life. That is how bad it is. Let me try to explain this. I have seen this photo on the internet, and it is quite a fascinating illustration, very scary one. It is the image of this person opening his mouth in rage and anger. And there is this fist that comes through his mouth, and this child was standing in front of him, and it is as though his words sounds like a fist hitting the mind and the personality of that child. I mean, this is quite a gruesome illustration, and that is how bad child abuse is. You see, the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, he says this, and I think it's very important and has so much relevance to child development. He says this, كل مولود يولد على الفطرة, that every newborn baby is born on a fitra. Fitra basically means a person who is on a clean slate, ready to accept. He is on the verge. He is in a situation where he can accept anything. It is upon a person who is nurturing that mind to make him what he wants out of the child. So in terms of religion, he can make him a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, or whatever. The thing is, as a newborn, he is ready to receive whatever you throw at him. This is what we know, that when a new child is born, his mind, his brain is like quarter of the brain of an adult, very small. And then it begins to develop, so that by the age of 5, he might have developed like 90% of the brain. But that is not the end of it. That brain would continue to develop all the way to early 20s. That is what we know. Now, even though he might have developed 90% of his brain, he will still have to make connection with the brain. Now, what does this mean? Connection means one action means that. That is the connection. Let me give us an example. So, for example, if I do something right and I'm rewarded for it, then the connection in the brain is good things equals reward. Now, you might have made that connection in your brain. In other words, if I do a bad thing and I'm being punished for that, the connection in the circuitry of the brain is that bad thing equals punishment. Now imagine if a person who is with a child in here has actually turned that upside down. The child does something good and he meets rejection. Then the connection in the brain of the child is good thing equals rejection. And if he does something right and he gets punished for that, the connection of the circuitry of the brain means good thing equals punishment. So you see, the development of the brain in such a way that the connection has so much importance, and people would connect certain activity to certain emotions because of the way they are wired, even from the time they are being brought up by their parents or whoever is taking care of them. That's how serious it is. So that if a child is not appreciated, if a child is abused, whether sexually, verbally, physically, it has this connection in the brain, and that is what makes certain children lose confidence in life, because it is being dampened even from the time they are being brought up. It is no wonder that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, sets the great example. Now, we know that Anas ibn Malik joined the Prophet to live under his house when he was 10. And he had so much wonderful and colorful report about the conduct of the Prophet as in relation to him. He was so gentle because he is a kid. He never said abusive word to him. He was so gentle with him because this is a child who is being brought up, and as a strong man as he would like to become, the person in charge of his brain would have to look at it from that perspective. The same way Ali ibn Abi Talib, his cousin, the Prophet, joined him and be taken care of under his house when he was only 5 years old. And the Prophet took very good care of him. And look at the result. Ali ibn Abi Talib was one of the fearless people when he became adult, very confident, because he was under the care of the best, because he was under the care of someone who understood the level and how damaging child abuse could be. So he never attempted to abuse them, even in words or in jest. That is how serious it is. Child abuse, therefore, is the worst crime. I believe child abuse should be one of the great evil a person could commit to anyone in this whole world, because you are killing a person even before he begins to live. You are killing a person before he even understands what life is all about. You are robbing him of the opportunity to become a fully functioning person. You made his wiring of the brain have this weird understanding about life, and you have damaged him for life, so that he grows up and he lacks confidence and he lacks appreciation of life, and he has this weird understanding of the connection of what life really means. So he misinterprets things because when his brain is being wired up, he was given the wrong thing. That's why children who are being rejected by parents, children who have been abused by their parents, grow up to be some of the most narcissistic people, because that's what they've been taught when they were coming up. It breaks their spirit and it tempts them upside down. Now, here's the question. If you are damaged, if your heart, if your spirit is broken, the question is, what impact would it have in your life? Now, we would try to answer this question in the next part of this video, inshallah. Until then, Assalamu alaikum.